Stop the rumors.
I know I done a relationship.
They're spreading rumors.
Like for real, where's this madness going on? Why are these people so gullible to gossip and come on. You know, it reached a point where I could go and create a fake profile and call up a certain individual name, an individual in the limelight, right? But whether or not this is true, the damage already done because of the person's name. So everybody will gravitate it and run with it, whether it's it or not. And this is what I'm tired of. I mean, come on, we just stop with the, we just stop with the.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. And welcome again to another edition of the Syndicate. Now, I am Neil Hoyt, as always, your co-host, joined by my other co-host, Derek Marshall. And now, as you can see, we got a little different setup here. We have a nice, well-dressed young man here in the middle. Let me introduce to you our first guest, our very first special guest, Omar Bourne, aka the Bourne Writer from the Bourne Connect podcast. He is a multimedia PR specialist based in New York and a communications leader. And we want to thank you so much, Omar, for joining us. You've made history. You are the first. And I want to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I want to thank you guys for having me. Happy to be here. I watch you guys all the time, so it's good to be here.
Sweet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, before we get into anything, Omar, since you are our guest, I'm going to ask you first, how you doing, man? How has life been treating you, especially being in New York, and especially with the pandemic and all the craziness? I have a brother overseas in New York as well, and he's been telling me about some of the lockdown procedures and protocols and all the madness and craziness. How has that been going with you, and how have you been managing to cope and stay mentally fresh and healthy?
Yeah, so it's been a crazy year for us everywhere around the world, and here in New York is no different. I would say last year was crazy. We went through a lot, and we're still going through it. Vaccine rollout in full effect. Everyone now over the age of 16 can be vaccinated, which is a good thing. And, everybody just waiting to the point where we could get back to normal, taking it day by day. But it's been a challenging year for me. I started the Bourne Connect last year because I was so overwhelmed with work. I was working in emergency management. And so obviously dealing with the pandemic, you're getting no rest. You're getting no. And so, I felt like I needed to do something, to start something where I could just relax and do something for myself. And that's how I started the Bourne Connect podcast. So, taking it day by day, just waiting for us to be able to get back to more normalcy. But so far, just taking it step by step.
Okay. Derek, how are you, my brother?
Sir.
How look like treating you?
I am here. I am good. I am well. I just not too long got in from the gym, bolted down some food, and came to do this. I am in good spirits, in good health, feeling good. And I'm feeling particularly good. This is the second time Omar and I have spoken face to face. Right, and for those of you who are actually here so far watching, this is my younger brother.
Right? Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and this is the second time in life that we are speaking face to face. So I'm feeling really good. I am very, very happy that you are our first guest, Omar, and I am really proud, really stoked. Hoping at some point we can actually see each other face to face, like real face to face. I had one jab. We'll see how the second jab goes.
Yeah, next time I come to Barbados, we'll definitely link up. This is literally my brother from another mother.
Literally.
That already makes you family, definitely.
For sure.
No, everything with me is fine. You know how it is. I just trying to keep my head above water with the ash and everything like that. It's just crazy with just cleaning up around the place and washing clothes and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I'm good. I'm well. I am thankful. So Derek, we've had the music playing and everything like that. You know how to do plug G Syndicate
man.
and where to find them.
Yes, you can find G Syndicate at gsyndicate6.com, and then on G Syndicate 6 on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I think that's all. Show all the guys in G Syndicate. We're actually preparing for a very special virtual performance coming very, very soon. So we had rehearsals Sunday. We had rehearsal yesterday. We got rehearsal tomorrow in preparation for that recording. So shout out Kiamal, Waden, Mark, Brett, Antonio. Good guys, sounding good as always. So happy about that. Yeah, and I'm going to give Omar the chance now to plug the Bourne Connect.
Yep.
He's here as a guest, so we're going to let you plug the Bourne Connect.
Yeah, so as I said, I started the Bourne Connect last year just as a way to unwind and to do something for myself. And the Bourne Connect is a show where I interview people, just talk about their inspiration, how they got to where they are. They're telling their stories and really inspiring everyday people to be the best that they can be. I think in life, when we look at our goals and our dreams, sometimes we think that we can't achieve them. And we look at celebrities and we're like, oh, how did they get there? But there's a lot of people who, you know, like you guys, you have this podcast, you got G Syndicate, Derek, who they're doing things in their lives that are making them successful. So how can we just get everyday people to come on, talk about their successes, talk about their failures, what's worked, and what hasn't, and just shed that light and share it with you. And then since I've been in media relations and PR for over a decade now here in New York City, I've been sharing PR tips as well with people. So if it's not sharing people's stories of their successes, is sharing tips on how you can really take PR concepts and apply them to your everyday life.
Yeah,
Good.
That sounds amazing.
Where can we find the podcast?
Yeah, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on Buzzsprout, Google Play. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find me. The Bourne Connect. Check me out.
Good stuff.
Yeah, we definitely got up our game, Derek boy. We got to get on some of those platforms for sure. But yeah, Omar, thanks again for joining us. So now, guys, first let me read out some comments. Good night, Steve. Good night, Omar. Natalia, good night. Yeah, we got up Steve. My man got a blazer and he got buttoned down.
Yeah, boy.
You know, we come up where we going to play basketball, but you know, don't take it in time. Darren and I have talked about this, and we know where we want to get to. Yeah. So okay, so Derek, you know how we do for those who are watching, and for Omar, what we do. Well, Omar, you watch the podcast, so you know what we do. Derek usually posts something on Monday for our Tuesday show, and he would have posted something with regards to a regional soca artist and some hot water he's thrown himself in. And we thought it would be interesting to talk a bit about what's happening in today's society, and also to how some of these guys handle their PR. Not only guys, but entertainers, right? Because there's some other people we want to get into as well, men and women, about how they approach social media or how they deal with certain scandals or transgressions. So Derek, take it away, my brother. You can let the people know what's going on.
A couple of weeks ago, actually, we actually had the whole Derek Jackson situation, and that prompted us to do a special show on. So for the first Thursday night, we dealt with the Derek Jackson situation, and then prior to that, we had the situation Major Height. His girlfriend / fiance / wife, not sure what her connection is, how he dealt with that situation. And then I heard your podcast, Bourne Connect, on Apple and Google and all those different platforms. Folks, check it out, right? I listened to your latest podcast, and you talked about handling crisis as a brand. I know we got a lot of people here that listen and watch your podcast and stuff like that, and they tend to be on their own either side hustle or is they're self-employed and as their name and as their brand. So I felt like it would be good advice. It'd be prudent for you to get somebody like you to come and talk about how you would handle situations when you, as a person and your brand, is faced with a particular emergency crisis, whatever you want to call it, and then you have to issue a statement. You got to take certain procedures to kind of navigate your way through the crisis you're in. And then after he had asked you to come and be a part of the show, one of our guests here, Dion, she sent Dion, like, shout out Dion, I don't know if she's here yet. She sent me a link, an Instagram link with this lady. She was going through this thing and she was in voice. And she just called the artist Kate, right? It was like 8 pages of reading. And when I got to the end of it, I was like, okay, this is a pretty unfortunate situation. It sounds like if this girl got herself involved with somebody who didn't do right by her.
Right.
And that's from her side of the story. I don't want to say her truth. I don't like to use that term.
Yes.
Because for me, truth is truth, fact is fact. So I don't like to hear his truth, her truth, right? But that's her perspective of the situation. And I read all 8 pages of the Instagram link. And at the end of it, I said to Dion, Dion, this really makes no sense. So she said to me, yeah, that's why I sent you the link above, which is a Facebook link then. And when I went to the Facebook link, up pops Corinne Dubois giving a statement that was related to the Instagram link that I had just read. And I said to her, but you know, why at all would you respond to this? Because when I read the Instagram thing, I had no idea who she was talking about. None at all. I don't know how it went for you guys, but when I read the link, I didn't get the impression that she was talking about any particular artist, one way or the other, right? Soca artists I can name 3 off the top of my head here right now: Kes, KFC, and the same Corinne Dubois. There's 3 kids. So even if and that's without digging, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, that was off the top.
Yeah, without digging. So I wondered why he felt the need to respond, right? But in Barbados, you know, you say guilty conscience don't let way. That's true, right? I ain't too sure, Omar, how if you could brush it or you Bayesian a little bit. You got it.
I might be Asian, don't worry.
Right? So and that really led me to wonder, why would he figure the need? He felt the need to respond to that. And then when I watched his response, it was like 7 minutes of nothing. You know?
Yeah.
So you did more to incriminate yourself than to kind of clear yourself of any wrongdoing. So I was wondering if there's something you could talk about in terms of that particular situation. We saw this situation with Derek Jackson a couple of weeks ago where he got caught out, responded to it, then had to retract his response and respond to his response. And it was just a hot mess in like 3-4 days. You know what I mean? And he ended up trending for all the wrong reasons. He felt his best way to deal with it was to go down the road of defamation of character and discrediting her by releasing sex tapes of her with other people and stuff like that. So I get the impression that these 3 methods, 3 very different methods that these 3 guys use, are not necessarily the best ways or the most effective ways to handle a crisis. So at this point, could you, for I see 26 guests in the house tonight, shout out to everybody in the Senate, could you, for everybody in the Senate tonight, could you kind of shed a little bit of light on those 3 situations, how best or what these guys could have done to kind of handle the situation a little bit differently so that they could have come out, I don't want to say unscathed, because their reputation always takes a little bit of a hit to situations like these, but they could have come out doing themselves more good than harm, as opposed to more harm than good, is what these guys did.
Yeah. So
Wait, Omar, before you go, right? Before you answer that, somebody's asking in the comments, and I think it's very important you answer this before you go forward. Is all publicity good publicity? And then you can
so
go into your response to that.
so gone are the days when all good publicity, and everybody used to say, "Oh yeah, good PR." But I beg to differ. Not now, especially in the culture that we live in these days when you have cancel culture. So
Yeah.
all publicity definitely is not good publicity, and you want to make sure that you trend in for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. Interestingly enough, if you look at all three of these situations that you guys mentioned, there was one common theme that was missing, and that was the theme of empathy. And I think when you look at Kerwin, when you look at Derek, I really
Jackson,
not
Jackson, Jackson.
Jackson. I'm really not familiar with the hype story. But when you look at these cases, and based on what you said with Major Hype, these guys were not empathetic, and that is a big deal when you are dealing with situations. Um, Now, obviously, there's not a one size fits all approach for dealing with a crisis, but there are overarching themes and protocols that you could put in place to ensure that you mitigate impact from the crisis. And let's look at Curran, for example. Based on what we know, and based on the fact that he wasn't even mentioned when this
Yeah.
young lady posted her story on Instagram or Facebook, honestly, there wasn't even a need for him to respond. Like that could have been, he could have just let that pass, because nobody is wise and nobody knows that it was him that she was.
Correct.
And I think until people really start to, um, when rumors start to swirl, for example, in his case, if you want to then address that situation, you got a couple of methods in which you can do so. Whether it is via a brief statement, um, and a brief statement that could just, again, show that you're empathetic, um, and work that out, or a brief video as well. But again, 7 minutes of
Nothing.
critiquing a robbery, and talking about alluding to the Me Too movement and how guys are often um, demonized in society and how people could make up rumors. Again, there's a lack of empathy there, and that did nothing to help his cause.
Could you also say there's a lack of accountability on his part as well? Or because if he wanted to come and deal with that issue, could he then say have some kind of accountability for it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends really on what his role in that was, right? And that's where that empathy comes in. And you could say something along the lines of, uh, you know, um, and we don't know we don't know the full details. But for example, uh, you could show some type of a compassion and concern. I respect this person. I respect all women. And there's nothing more than for me to want to treat everyone with respect. And from there, you can then pivot to uh, that message, be empathetic, and keep it brief. That was definitely not the case. And I think the issue with a lot of these people are, again, Kerwin, Derek was the same way. They're keeping there's this tendency to just click and post. And what I mean, someone tells you something and you go immediately to your social media and you feel like you have to respond. And so you click and you post the first thing that comes to mind. And for me, I'll tell you this right now, in dealing with crises, I've dealt with hurricanes here, and other parts of the country. I've dealt with, emergencies, building collapses, where you really need to get a rapid response out. And I will tell you, when we're talking to officials, the one thing that an official will never do before they get in front of a camera, that's go in front of a camera without being prepared. And we have what you call question and answers, where we sit down, we gather in a situation like an emergency, a hurricane or a building collapse or whatever. We gather all the information that we have at that point. We talk about it. We go over potential questions that can come up. And then when we're comfortable, we go and we address the media. But a lot of people, because they don't have these, they don't think strategically, they think that by just clicking and posting that that's going to help the cause. But you need to apply those same practices to you as a brand when is you who is in dealing with these types of issues. And so you got to sit down with your team. If it's whether it's in Dick's case, it was he and his wife. You got to sit down, get some trusted people around you. If you don't have a PR professional, you got to find one and say, okay, here's the issue. Here's what I want to say. How do I go about doing this? And in Derek's case, that could have been said, you've heard, I've and I are working through some, we're going through some difficult times, guilty of some indiscretions. That's a matter that we want to deal with privately, and we appreciate the privacy, and we're going to deal with this as a couple, and we need some time. And here's why that approach would have worked perfectly. When you talk about dealing with your issues privately, and now it's a private matter, when more people started to come up, when more women started to pop up, and he had the secondary issues,
right.
Official statement where he's saying, I'm dealing with this between me and my wife, suffices as well. Because now, what are people going to say? Oh, they've addressed it. They're dealing with it privately. But that wasn't the case. And then there was this need to continually try to respond to every post, comment. And you just find yourself going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. We're talking to Omar Bourne, aka the Bourne Writer. Just fulfilling those who just got here. He has coordinated responses to numerous emergencies, including winter storms, and even the current pandemic we are facing right now. And he's doing all this from New York City. He's currently an associate vice president at a leading PR firm in New York City, and he lends his media relations and crisis management expertise across numerous sectors. So just to fill you guys in that are tuning in, this is not just a random dude really well dressed talking. He knows his stuff, he knows what he's talking about. Let's just touch base in the chat. Good night to everybody again. Good night, Jennifer. Mikey Mercer in the chat. Good to see you, my brother. Welcome.
Good night, Michael.
Hi, Tony. Ray asks if it's good publicity or not. Tony here again. Yes, Claire, we started without you for real. And Claire is asking a question. Question, sir. I manage a few pages and there is always back and forth about deleting negative comments or posts. I want to know what your opinion is. So, Omar, can you shed some light on that? Deleting negative comments or posts on, I guess, it's Facebook pages or social media pages.
Yeah, I think the key is that you want to always be responsive and address the situation. And so for me, I don't know that deleting a negative comment really helps the issue in so much as you really want to respond to that person and find out, what is their complaint, and then talk about ways in which you're working to address that issue. And I think when you get into that kind of positive discussion or response to that person will see that you care, and I think will respect you more for that. If you're just going to start deleting people because they don't, or their comments because they don't necessarily agree or have found something at fault, I wouldn't take that as a strategy. You really want to relate to people and be able to show them ways in which you're working to better your product.
Okay, cool.
Right. Okay. But let me ask you a question though there. Sorry, Omar. Let me ask you a question. So now we're talking about essentially the public relations scandals or mitigating that, cancel culture and all of that. Um, do you think, okay, so there was a story about Lizzo. She kind of, you know how she is on social media. I don't know if you're aware, but she's very outspoken on social media. And she recently kind of dove into the DMs of Chris Evans, right? And she's kind of doubling down on that and everything. And that, do you think that, and I'm not saying this to bring any sort of controversy into the show or whatever, but do you think that there is a men are more heavily scrutinized in the public eye and in public relations scandals more so than women, particularly when it comes to we live in a culture now where women, once you disagree with them, as you were just saying, they would be quick to say, "Oh, you don't agree with me, delete that," or shame you for what you think and how you believe. Obviously, I'm not speaking about the extreme side of things. I'm speaking about things where, it's within the realm of possibility. It comes down to perspective. But people are quick to cancel men more so than women based on their ideologies or even some of their opinions.
I think that we have to look at each situation as it comes. And I think instead of getting into whether men are canceled more than women, what I will say is that you really want to find out how you can mitigate an issue and deal with the crisis at hand so that you don't get to the point where you're canceled, right? Because
Yeah,
regardless if you're a man or a woman, you don't want to be canceled.
exactly.
No.
So what can you do as an individual to ensure that when a crisis comes, you uh, you can handle it the best way? And I think that's the issue, and that's what we need to be looking at. And part of
I
that
have
is
another.
having a plan.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, right. So another question I have for you too. So recently, the last example of this I can remember is when Kevin Hart won. They asked Kevin Hart to host the Oscars,
Mhm.
and someone dug up his tweets from years and years ago where he said some derogatory statements toward a minority group. Um, can you speak a bit about that section of it where people are being ostracized based on things they would have said in their youth or in the
Right.
younger years, whether it be something they believed, if they wanted to say it for shock value, if they said it to be funny? Can you speak to, is growth, the years of maturity and wisdom taken into an account? Or do you think that once you've said these things, if you said them 10 years ago, you should be hung by it in the present time?
Yeah. So I think, as we all know, I mean, we all grow, we all evolve, we all mature as individuals, right? If Omar at 20 is Omar now at 25. uh,
Right.
you know, then my line of thinking, there's something wrong there. And so I think we all have to be cognizant, obviously, of what we say and how we say it. But there is room for growth, yes, and people do change. Um, there's also accountability, and we all have to be accountable for our actions. And people choose different ways in which to hold different people accountable for actions, whether it was 15 years in the past or 2 weeks ago, right? But we all have to remember that, yes, people can grow, people can evolve, and that should definitely be taken into consideration.
All right. We got another question here. How do you handle if you did delete the negative comment and it was screenshot and circulated, even though you tried to issue an apology / explanation for the situation? So how do you deal with the screenshot? Because the screenshot in these times, the screenshot
Wait.
is undefeated.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, you can't beat the screenshot. So how do you deal with the screenshot? Or let's say you put out a voice note, for example. How do you deal with, because the screenshot and the voice note undefeated, how do you handle those situations? How do you kind of, because I watched the podcast you did on handling, preparing these statements and stuff like that. So if you could kind of get into the tips you would give, because again, you got a lot of people that run their own businesses, manage offices and stuff like that. And I think we don't only come at, because they say that we're a little sexist on the show. We don't only attack women, right, guys? We don't only attack women here. Or rather, sorry, we don't attack women here, but we're about self-improvement as well. So how would you treat those situations? Could you give us some of the tips that you would have gone through on your podcast and share them with the family that we have here tonight?
Yeah, so I think even before you get to the screenshot, you have to always be mindful of what you're going to say. I'm gonna get to the just automatically deleting people in a second. But you asked about voice notes, right? And when I was a press, back dealing with press, when I was press secretary, one of the things that you always want to be mindful of, and this is dealing with New York City press, especially, you always want to be mindful of what you say before you say it. So for you as if you're not dealing with press, but you're dealing with individuals, every interaction, I know it sounds as if it's difficult, but every interaction with a customer or with someone, you have to be mindful of, and you have to make sure that you are prudent about what you say. I will say this, when it comes to responding online, where you're commenting and everything can be saved, again, you want to be mindful of that, and you always want to be cordial in your interactions with people. Thank you for reaching out. We're handling this issue. We'll look into it and we'll get back to you. Or thank you for reaching out. We appreciate your feedback. We understand your issue with my product, and we are working to make your experience better. Now, in a situation where you have deleted someone and they screenshot that you've deleted it and they post it, don't be afraid to now go back to that person and say, I realize that we deleted your screenshot, but talk about now what you're doing to mitigate or right? You can't be afraid to say you're dealing with an issue. And one thing I will always say is that you always want to frame your response in a way that you show what you're doing to improve the issue at hand.
Right.
What you're doing well. Now, there's some cases where you might just have done the wrong thing, period, and that was your bad. Excuse me. And there's no there's no problem, no issue with apologizing and saying that you're going to do better in the future, and again, outlining some things to show that you've learned from it and you're going to do better in the future. So if you've deleted somebody and they screenshotted, oh, look at this person, they deleted me, don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I understand this. Here's what I'm going to do to make this situation better. And with voice notes, I will say, since you talked about voice notes, again, always be cognizant of what you say and what you write, because there's always going to be a trail. Always going to be a trail. So be mindful of that.
Yeah, there's a thing where they say, don't hit send.
Exactly.
Yeah, you write it out. You see a lot of that, especially with NBA players and stuff like that. They write stuff out and then it's and they send it and then they got to go and delete it. It's just like, yeah, we get that you want to express it, but don't hit send, because it's very, very rare that you put something out there and somebody doesn't grab it.
Right. And it's the basic principle of take a second, woosah, breathe,
Yeah.
look over what you've written, and get and sometimes it means getting someone else's opinion, right? And that's where someone like me comes in if you're talking about working for an organization or working for a business, right? We're at the table, we're talking, we're in those meetings, or we should be in those meetings, and we're saying, if you do this, there be the impact. And you have to look at things holistically. And optics is a big thing, man, because and that's something that I want to get into on my podcast as well. And you could have the right intentions,
Mm-hmm.
but if you do it at the wrong time, or you don't execute it well enough, you don't execute your plan well enough, public opinion can drag you, man. And so you have to be aware of your optics, and really take time out to have your plan in place, but to take a step back and get someone else's opinion and read it over before you click send. Because the one thing about reading a text or a tweet is that tone that tone can be interpreted in a lot of different
Yeah.
ways. And sometimes you intend to have a tone, but it's interpreted when someone reads it
Yeah.
differently from how you wrote it. And, all
Yep.
hell breaks loose. So you really got to take some time to just sit back, breathe, reread it, get another opinion before you hit send. You can't get back.
That's
Mhm.
right. Yeah, Neil, you were saying something?
No, I was gonna ask. Well, I see Claire has a question here.
Yeah.
But really quickly before we get to that question, I was gonna ask you. You mentioned timing. You mentioned the timing of everything. What would you suggest should be the timing in terms of response? Whether you're responding to a customer service question or you're responding to something is out in the public about you that you feel a need that you have to issue a statement before how quickly would you say before stuff hits the internet and someone that's working with you would respond?
Well, I think stuff is going to hit, stuff is probably going to hit the internet before you can try to stop that, right? So, for example,
Right.
when you're dealing with a customer, um, and they ask about and they make a complaint, and it's on your and it goes viral, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes viral. Um, I think the key is one, you have to you want to respond in a timely fashion, and that could be, if you're a corporation, that could range from a few minutes to a couple of hours, depending on what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your own brand, um, and it's just a customer who writes in your reviews, that you want to be able to respond to that person within a few hours, understanding that you have the tools and the information to provide that shows that you're doing something about the issue,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so timing isn't only about being able to respond, but you want to respond with something that's substantive. You just don't want to respond, because as we've seen, that rarely goes well, right?
No.
Yeah.
So if you're your own brand, you always have to be strategic about your interactions with others. And so once you have the information that you can provide that shows that you're doing something to deal with the issue, with that. One of the things that we used to do, for what we used to call a no notice emergency, which is just an emergency that would pop up, like God forbid, a steam explosion or a building collapse.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of use a multi-tier approach to responding, right? Your phones are going to be blazing. Media is going to want the information. People are going to want to know what's going on. Where we would do kind of what we call rapid response via social media, right? And it would just be a quick statement on our social media channel to say we're aware of the situation, we're responding to it. If it's a situation where you need to avoid the area, we would put that information in there. Avoid the area. You'll see a lot of personnel and emergency personnel, etc. Right? And you do that just to kind of let people know that you're aware of the issue and that you're responding. Then once you get on the scene and you kind of gather the information and you more detail as to what occurred, that's when you can now go in front of the cameras and provide an update. So depending upon the severity of your issue, sometimes the quick statement of we're aware of the situation and
we handling it.
You once we learn more is good.
It sounds like it buys you some time as well.
Right. And it buys you time, understanding that you have to follow up, obviously, right? But it will buy you that time. And if it's just one of those customer complaints, again, you could tell them, okay, thank you for the email. We're going to look into it and get back to you. Buy yourself some time, find the information. Or if you feel as if you can find the information in just a few minutes, you could get the information and then respond.
All right. We got Clara. Clara's in the chat again. She's saying, me again, the self-proclaimed local social media influencer, she uses inverted commas, has given us a proposal to use her influence. 5,000 followers on IG, less than our business page has. But anyway, right, the question is, do these type of influencers actually generate business by claiming they use/love your product or business? Any tips to manage it productively? So let me get a question again. Do these type of influencers actually generate business by claiming they use/love your product or business? Any tips to manage it productively?
I mean, I've worked and we've used influencers in the past to kind of drive a campaign and to drive views to your page. So yes, they can work. It really just depends on who the influencer is, but it can work, and it can work to help drive people at least to your page where they could get more information on it. I think the best tip that I can give you is to do your research on who that person is. Find out as much information as possible about that influencer and what the services are that they can provide. And if you feel as if that is something that will work well for you and your business, then I say go for it. But you always want to do your research. You don't want to just jump into something because someone says that they're an influencer and they can, drive people to your page. You want to look at, what work have they done in the past? What has the results been? And these are questions that you can ask. And sometimes you can do the research as well. How you can best utilize their resource. Because my guess is that you're going to have to pay for it. And so you want to make sure that you get a return on your investment. I like Claire. Claire's been asking the question. Shout out to Claire, yo.
Yeah, shout out to Claire.
I have another question I see Steve has a question. Okay, I can read Steve's question. At times, is it best to say nothing, e.g., had Kerwin said nothing, would it blow over and go away as he was not named specifically?
Sometimes, my man, the best thing you could say is nothing at all. And we touched on that earlier. And my guess is that, again, Kerwin wasn't named based on what we know. There's no need for him to say anything at all, especially not a 7.5-minute video of rambling.
That really did not answer anything.
Exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes it's best not to say anything.
Okay.
I see Marsha in the chat tonight. Marsha boy, shout out to Marsha. Yes.
Shout out Marsha. This just in.
This just in podcast.
Yeah, shout out to the crew.
She's saying to Claire, also make sure that your audience is aligned, your companies and that of the influencers. Yes, I although I get the impression we don't do that very much here in Barbados, I think it's more a case of we just want eyes on the product. So you will see all kinds of brands kind of just jump on to whatever's hot and we roll with it. It's not a matter of kind of lining up brands with what lines up. You know what I mean? It's just this body got enough influence, enough followers. We can go with that. This body got some pull. We can go with that. So I might be selling, I don't know, holy water, but I figured that a particular DJ could get me some forward with this water. Shoot, I can sponsor this DJ. You know what I mean? And whether he lines up with holy water or not,
Right.
we going down the road with that. So
You're speaking about an aquatic rodent.
I may
to help push your.
I may or may not be. You know, you never know. But yeah, maybe I may not be. Omar Bourne is saying many of us experience situations where we need someone like Omar to negotiate us through PR situations. But I find that we as persons let our emotions get the better of us all the time. So is it how we all deal with our emotions, or how do we cope with our emotions before we vent on issues and respond to people on social media? I feel like that is very, very important. I think because you've been saying it all the time, you know, get another pair of eyes to look at it. Don't hit send. I think that we kind of get caught up, and because we're so close to the situation.
Don't forget ego.
Too.
Do not forget ego.
We close to the situation. It's us. It's our personal brand. It's our reputation, and we get a little bit in our feelings. Sometimes we're ego, as you said, Neil. Who are these people to check me?
Right.
You know.
Oh boy.
And I turn on my camera and I go live, and whatever comes out comes out.
Yeah.
I think as Omar is saying, we need to kind of, as you say, take a step back, pause, and look at it. I realize you handle stuff from a corporate end, but Neil and I, we're two creatives in our own way. I see Marsha in the chat as well, another creative. I saw Mikey earlier. I saw Jennifer Young. She deals with artists and stuff in Barbados. I think I saw Terencia. We had a couple of artists coming through, Mikey in the chat. And at times, there are situations that will pop up, particularly at crop over and stuff like that, as an artist, where you would have to kind of, or sometimes you're in competition and something happens, you get a result that's not favorable to you. And it is a case where you now have to kind of manage that situation by speaking to the public, issuing a statement to the press or to the public via the press, and you really don't want to just hit, go live or whatever happen, so I really think this is an important. Jennifer says yes.
And here's one thing that I would say, especially when you talk about events like Crop Over and just other events that you're going to have. I always like to say, we would always say this in emergency management, it is not a strategy. So what does that mean? That means that whether you're a brand as an individual or as a corporation, you have to have a plan. And it means that you now got to sit down and look at your business and your business model and think about everything that could happen that could affect your business, or the main things that could happen that could affect your business, and then try to find ways in which you're going to deal with that issue. So for example, for a small business, who's going to be the person that's going to respond to your to the media or to the public or to customers when there is an issue, right? Do you have a person identified? And if you do, Are they trained to know what to say um, when when an issue happens? So we used to say, and again, I go back to emergencies because that's what I
Yeah.
dealt with a big part of my career, right? Um,
Right.
and so for Barbados, we know hurricane season is June 1st to November 30th. Interestingly enough, it's the same here in New York City, right?
Right.
That's hurricane season. But what am I doing December to May, right? Am I just kicking back, chilling, like, oh, you know what I mean? Hurricane season's not here yet, so I'm good money. Nah, I'm building the relationships with the public to know that I'm a trusted spokesperson and they know that they can come to my social media for information, uh, for trusted information in the times of emergency. So I'm building those relationships. But I'm also practicing, right? I have my plans in place and I'm practicing. So I'm preparing. Okay, and what if there's a hurricane that's going to come up the East Coast this year? What am I going to say? Who are the people that we need to identify that's going to be the spokespersons? What's the time in which we're going to do it? Where are people going to go for shelters, etc. So all of that stuff you have to plan. We're planning before the season comes so that when the season comes, we're not scrambling trying to figure out who's the best person to call or where's it becomes like a reflex where you have that information and now you just got to act upon it. So this same concept applies to your business or your brand. You know what I mean? Who's going to be the person that I know is going to respond to customers when they're going crazy online? You know what I mean? If somebody calls and has a complaint, who's that person that's going to be able to talk about that issue? And what are they going to say? We call it, sometimes you want to have just boilerplate language, which is basically just a standard statement that you can, a standard template that you can have and you can plug and play, if you need to respond rapidly to someone.
Right.
So you really want to look at your communications plans and make sure that, look at your communication strategy and make sure that you have plans in place so that you can deal with these issues. And then for guys like Jenks, Derek Jackson, and Kerwin, and artists like yourself, if something happens, what am I going to do? Like you as G Syndicate, you guys need to be thinking about, okay, what could affect us? And if it were to affect us, who's going to speak? And if you guys don't have a PR person like me, then is it going to be Derek that's going to speak? Is it going to be Kiamal? Is Kiamal still with you guys?
Yeah.
Who's the person that's going to talk to the public when we need to say something? So it's all about planning and having these things, thinking about these things so that you can implement a strategy when you have to. You can't just go out there and wing it because it's not going to work. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Renee is asking.
Oh, Renee has a question. Okay, go ahead.
How
What up,
true is
Renee?
the statement that no publicity is bad publicity?
But in what context are we talking about, though? Right? Because as a brand, you're always going. Your goal is to drive people to your product. So you have a social media strategy, right, to do that. Whether that's posting a video every day on your social media channel, whether that's doing paid advertising. So you're garnering publicity there. So I think when we look at bad publicity, there used to be there was a saying that all press is good press, all publicity is good publicity, which in the culture we're in, the cancel culture, that's not true because your brand can be damaged quickly. It takes a lifetime to build trust and 1 second to erode that and to eradicate it. So you're going to be doing proactive things and implemented proactive strategies to gain that publicity. I think when it comes to reactive, where it has the potential to go bad, that's where you need to really hone in. But when things aren't going bad, you're not just sitting back with your feet up, just chilling. Everything is going cool. Nah, you want to be reaching out to your target audience. You want to be interacting with the public. Goes back to what I said. In the off season, we're not just chilling saying, "Oh, there's no hurricanes. That's cool." Nah, we're out in the public. We're on our social media. We're engaging with people. We're telling them about what we do, the plans that we have in place, meet the people, all of that stuff we're doing, so that one, you build a relationship with people, and building a relationship is so key because when bad things happen, they have the propensity to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
It's like a relationship with your significant other. You know what I'm saying? Like they have that trust. They're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. It's the same thing with building your brand. So you have to be out there and be strategic about it, but you have to be out there interacting with people to build your brand.
Mikey is saying planning and preparation. I know he was saying all the time, plan the work and work the plan. That's a Mikeyism. Clear. That. Yeah, you're gonna like that. You like that a lot. Plan the work the plan. Clear, she's saying, but sir, customers don't understand emergencies. The weekend of the Ashfall, one customer at the villa called on Monday to complain he couldn't enjoy the facilities. How do you reasonably sanitize a response to that?
Yeah. So if obviously with that situation, you keep it real, you keep it 100%, but you got to be nice about it. You got to be strategic about it. So the customer is saying, oh, I can't enjoy the facilities. You say, thank you for reaching out to us. As you may know, the ash from the volcano is affecting the island, and some of the activities may be delayed or postponed, out of a abundance of caution, or your safety and your safety is our number one priority. And what you're doing there now is that you're showing concern, right? You're showing that. Let me go back. For a situation like that, I like to use something called the 5 C's, right? Certainty, compassion, concern, collaboration, and control, right? So certainty, what's that mean? Thank you for your information. Thank you for your call or whatever it is. The volcano eruption in St. Vincent is affecting Barbados, which may cause delays in services. Compassion, your compassion/concern, your safety is our number one priority. As such, here's what we're doing to mitigate the problem. Collaboration, here's who we're working with, whether that be the Barbados, your hotel association, your maintenance crew, to clear the grounds safely and quickly, and control. And here's what we're going to do in the future to make sure that we can get back up and running when it's safe. Those 5 things that I just did there, is what you will use. And look, at the end of the day, people are people. So that person might still be pissed off at the fact that they can't enjoy the facilities, which is fine. What you've done, though, is you've responded to them. You showed that you care about them and that you guys are working your best to fix and handle the problem so that they could get back to enjoying the facilities as best as they can. Sometimes that's all you can do, right? But at least you've tried your best.
Yeah.
And that's what counts.
Yeah. I smiled when you said it's in the abundance of caution. Our Prime Minister uses that line a lot.
Right.
I see Jennifer making mention to that in terms of handling the pandemic, she would say it is with an abundance of caution that we do X, Y, Z. So when you say that, it does sound as if there's a bit of a formula to handling situations like this. Marsha is saying being proactive and preemptive. So again, you can only do that from preparing.
Exactly.
Having that preparation, you know what you're going to do, what you're going to say, how you're going to handle certain situations.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I see where it's coming. Go ahead, Neil.
Right. So, Omar, I have another question, and I want to shift gears a bit because we've been, as Derek mentioned, obviously we are creatives. Creatives come in and out of our they're part of our fandom. They're part of our audience. They're watching everything like that. And Derek and I have noticed some people, both locally, regionally, and internationally, who manage their own social media, right? Entertainers. Would you say, would you advise people to, especially entertainers, to find other people to take care of their social media? Because as you mentioned earlier about staying on brand, staying part of your brand identity and everything like that. And, once you're in the public's eye, essentially you are a brand. You, whether you're a group or whether you're a business or whether you're yourself, you are a brand. So I use the example of Mikey Mercer. He is obviously a Calypsonian. He's a soca artist. He is a brand. He is no longer Mikey Mercer, if you understand what I'm saying. So would you recommend people kind of get someone to strategize or go the Rihanna route of having her do her own social media, and wherever the onions drop, they fall?
Yeah, so I really think it depends on the individual, right? So, I've worked with people who have allowed for a team to come in and run their social media, and I've worked with people who like to run their social media themselves. What I will say is that regardless of what approach you take, again, you want to have some key concepts in mind, right? So you should always have a team, and there should be layers to this. So if I am a brand, if I'm Mikey, I forgot what you said his name, Mikey, I forgot his name.
Mercer.
Mikey is fine.
Mikey's fine.
Mikey Mercer. Mikey is fine.
You want to run your own, account. I would say that you want to have a couple of trusted people who can work with you to review it, and to work with you to develop content as well, so that you have a second set of eyes on the content that you're releasing, especially when it comes to issues where you might have to react to something. Proactively as well, because sometimes you might have the best intentions and then it turns out to be a mess. So if you don't want to hire someone to run your social media and you want to do it yourself, that's fine. But I still think that you should have a trusted person, preferably a professional, especially when you start to be in the public eye, who can provide advice when it comes to posting.
Another question here for you. So we know of some artists here, and yeah, we know some artists here who they're a performer, a singer, but a lot of their content is not necessarily geared toward what they do. It's more, pictures of them modeling or in scantily clad things or whatever, right? So I just wanted to know, how important is it to have, as you said, a strategy for your social media as an individual? So you decided you're not going with the team, you could handle it yourself, whatever. How important is it for your brand to stay on message and within keeping to your vocation, your art form or your creativity or even your business? Because we do have some businesses here that would be, let's say they are bakers, they make specialty cakes, but every now and then you're seeing pictures of them with their family, or you're seeing pictures of them, at a party or something like that. How is on their company page? Just speak to how important it is to kind of personal brand is not conflicted with your business brand or your public brand.
Right. So if you have a company page, um, then you want to keep it professional. Um, and that doesn't mean that you can't post pictures, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't post video because media is big, right? And honestly, a lot of people relate more to video content um, and pictures as opposed to text, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to definitely stay on brand on your company page. And so I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have photo at a party on my corporate page. I wouldn't have video corporate page. But what I will have, if I'm a bakery, is videos of me of the process of baking a cake, or happy videos of customers who had a cake, who might have had a birthday party with my cake, and you see that they're enjoying the cake that I baked, right? So it's a customer, but it's still on message. And want to be strategic, especially with your company brand, with how you interact on social media. You can be fun and you can use your personality. Um, be cognizant of the types of things that you use your personality to portray, especially when it's on your corporate brand. And so you can shoot videos, but I would say shoot more videos of you. If you got a couple of employees, shoot more videos of your employee, or doing something at work that's pertaining to that. And then your personal page is your personal page. What I will say is, yes, your personal page is your personal page. You need to be cognizant of everything that you post is personal or corporate, because once you put it out there, you can't. A couple of weeks ago, there was a big discussion about Khloe Kardashian wanted to remove the photo of her in a bikini off of the internet. She didn't have any makeup or anything on, and I guess there, you know, her brand didn't want that picture out there because she wasn't all glammed and dolled up, and there was a controversy around that and um, objectifying women's bodies, etc. But what I will say is that uh, you want to be cognizant of everything that you post, whether it's on your personal or your business. But you put your wage, you keep your business. You can still use your personality to shoot videos and to show cakes and do reels and stories and all of that good stuff. But you don't want to be your bakery. You don't want to be posting photos of you at the beach in a bikini.
Yeah. The two don't match.
Yeah.
With regard to that, then, since you're saying you want to manage your page properly, with those who are going into the workforce, what is the impact of social media for that in terms of people actually seeking employment? Do employers actually go through the social media account?
Oh yeah, yes, of course they do. Um, Whether it's your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your Twitter, yeah, it's public knowledge. They can.
Yeah.
Um, and so, again, that's why I mentioned that you need to be cognizant of everything that you're posting. It's so interesting. People, people like to put on their Twitter, especially, or their personal Instagram, these the thoughts here are my thoughts, or not the thoughts of my company or corporation or whatever. That's fine and dandy, but let me tell you something. If you get into a big controversy, big enough where it brings attention to your company and your corporation, that's not going to help you. Your people are going to still have to be issuing statements. They still have to try to cover for you. And depend on the organization that you work with, you could still lose your job if it affects their bottom line. So again, you want to be cognizant of everything that you post.
All right, we got Marsha. Marsha, as you, Omar, as a PR practitioner, what would you say is the most difficult aspect of your job in this modern slash viral age?
That's a good question. The most difficult part of my job, I would say, is when you are not privy to decisions are made, and then there's backlash, and you're finding out about it after the fact, and you have to craft a way to respond because you know you weren't, again, you didn't have knowledge of the decisions that were being made. They
Right.
were made, they were executed, they didn't go as planned, and now you have to deal with consequence management and reputation management, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so um, the reactive part of that, the most difficult part. But again, there's a strategy to that, right? So now people, and you got to get all the information. Okay, why did we do this? Uh, what does it mean? What are the long-term impacts? What's the positive that we're doing in this situation? And you can sit down and talk to them and craft your statement and your approach based off of that information. But it's difficult when you're not a part of the process sometimes that it's playing out. And then you're only called at the 11th hour
Yeah.
and
To
things
clean up the mess.
Now you caught out there. You caught right out there on the limb.
Yeah. Renee is saying that they absolutely do check the social media pages, even here in Barbados. So, yes, for those wondering, keep your social media pages clean, guys. Steve, see, they say oftentimes discipline or they're in danger of being cancelled when people do things in their personal life, but they are a public figure. Yep. How hard slash fair is it to separate the two? And should you be penalized for living?
That's a very good question.
That's a very good question. Um, I think you live, but I think as with everything, you always have to understand that with your actions there will be consequences. Now you have to take in consideration what type of organization you might be working for, and what their policy is, right? And every corporation has a policy, a handbook, an employee handbook. Well, I assume they do. Here in America, they do. I assume they do in Barbados as well. Guidelines in which to live by when you're on the job and when you're off the job. Now, for the most part, if you're out, you're partying, you get drunk or whatever. For me, that's not my lifestyle. I can't tell a person how to live. I wouldn't recommend you posting that on social media anyway. But per adventure that you go out and you post that, um, more often than not, that's not going to be something that's going to cause you to be terminated, right? But again, it depends on your company policy and where
Yeah.
you work. So you have to be mindful of all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, I mean, we've seen here in America over the past couple of years, we've seen people lose their jobs uh, because they had said racist, they had made racist comments, et cetera, right? So you really just want to be mindful and cognizant of whatever you're going to do. I don't think that you're going to lose your job, though, for going out and partying and posting that on social media. Uh, Now, if you're doing other being abusive, etc., there might be some type of repercussions for that, depending on, again, on your company. Um, but the bottom line is that you can go outside, you can have fun, but you want to be cognizant of the things that you're going to be posting.
All right. Let me ask a question here now, Omar. Now we're switching gears a bit, and I really want to talk about cancel culture specifically, and the situation we found ourselves in with all this social media and instant access to everyone around the world. We can oftentimes find ourselves, whether it is true or not, being judged in the court of public opinion before any evidence, hard, concrete evidence has come to really vilify us, right? To really put us as guilty in this situation. Can you speak a bit toward cancel culture and um, how how does public relation, your job and your function specifically, work to mitigate so quickly behind stuff like this? Because it could come out like today, it could come out like right now. XYZ is happening. Derek has done X, Y, or Z. Now, by the time he reads it, he's already canceled. Nobody wants to see just Syndicate. Nobody wants to hear his music. Nobody wants him to teach their children. Nothing like that. How do you see cancel culture, and how do you do your best to keep up with the court of public opinion?
Yeah. Again, I think it has to do with just being able to make sure that you have a plan that's in place for how you're going to deal with that stuff. Now, depending upon what Derek has done, is going to determine lawyers need to be involved. And once you get lawyers involved, you really have to think about what you can and can't say, because there's going to be things that you can't say because it could be used against you in court, right? So it's going to depend upon the extent of that. But what I will say is that you want to get together with that team, with that person. I want to get together with Derek and say, all right, my man, tell me what happened here. And you can deal with it by providing a statement with the information that you can provide, right? Now, I would say if Derek has gotten himself in hot water, you could, again, depending on the extent of the situation, you can say, we're aware of the situation, Derek and XYZ. We are looking into the matter, and once we find more information, we will keep you updated. And again, what you've done is that you've responded and you've cut yourself some time to get your facts together before before you can continue. Now, public opinion is going to be public opinion, right? But the issue is how you deal with the situation. And again, it goes back to those core components that I talked about: showing that compassion, showing that concern, being empathetic. Because even in your worst situation, when you show empathy and you show compassion, and if you did something wrong and you say, I messed up, and again, I'm going to take the legalities out of it, right? Because when you deal with lawyers, you're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that you can and can't say. Right. So lawyers aside, when you can say, I'm messed up. Here's what I'm doing to improve. Here's what I've learned, and here's what I am doing to improve. That goes a long way towards building your reputation and building it back. And sometimes, as I said in the podcast, everybody needs a little time. I'm
I heard you say.
Yeah, that's right. I'm auditioning now.
Yeah.
Sometimes after you've said all that you need to say, you just gotta take some time away to let it blow over. Because you know what? There's gonna be another issue.
Yeah.
Not too far down the road that's going to pop up, and people are going to, people will turn to that issue.
Yeah.
And then you reintroduce yourself to people. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is O. You know what I'm saying? So there's a way that you go about it. Everything is not gonna, and that's the other thing. And I think why people get on, they record, they click and post is because they want to deal with the situation immediately, right?
Yeah.
And they feel as if, oh, if I deal with it now, I'm gonna
That's
say
that.
my piece, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, because Corinne actually said that, this is the last time I talk
Right.
about,
Right.
that was the thing, it doesn't work like that.
How it works, right? There's levels to this. There's stages to this, and so sometimes, just like there's a process of grief, there's a process for everything. Sometimes you have to go through your process. But I would say, even on your worst day, you want to be empathetic. You want to show people what you want to be contrite. You want to show people what lessons you have learned and what you are doing to improve them. And once you've done that, take some time away, let it blow over, and you can reintroduce yourself.
Yeah, because even before you got there, I was thinking that with the Usher situation a couple of years ago, Usher had the situation with, the STIs and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and he never responded.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sat there,
Yeah.
just kind of sat there and waited it out,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't even talk about it anymore because,
And
as
then,
you
and
said,
that, but
there's
but
always something else.
but not only did he wait it out, what did he do? He dropped some music,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Let me just get
Yeah.
your mind off that.
Drop some music.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like remember R. Kelly back in the day when R. Kelly
Yeah.
had, he was on trial. He was on trial for sexually abusing a minor. And then my mom was like, "Yeah, everybody like R. Kelly. I done with R. Kelly." Then my mom stepped to the left,
Yeah.
step to the
Step to
right.
the right.
And my mom released Chocolate Factory, and it was a done deal. People was like, "All right, to release music like that, he has to have. He can't
We
be
can
all
forgive
together
R.
there,
Kelly.
right.
Yeah. So you forgive
Everybody,
R. Kelly.
everybody was. I remember that. That was summer of 2003, I think, 2002,
Something like that.
2003. Every
Summer, yeah.
might have been '01, but everybody was driving around that summer bumping Ignition. Everywhere you
Yep.
turn, Ignition's on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not gonna work for him now, but
Oh no.
I
He
should
ran out
say,
of
yeah.
yeah. He ran out of favors of the black communities.
Claire's talking about Derek Jackson. Yes, yes, Claire, we are well aware of Jimmy Swagger. I mean, if you're too young, come on now. But that's the same
I
approach.
like that you think that we are too young for Jimmy Swagger. I appreciate
We
that
do.
that
We do. We
compliment.
really appreciate it. Thank you. Jay-Z, the elevator, that
Yup,
situation.
there you go. I was
Also, there have been times when situations happen and you kind of just gotta just leave it.
yeah.
Just leave it. And let it do its thing. But then and I find that it's because, as usual, we like to talk men and women, the men and woman dynamic, right? I find the men kind of sometimes in the instance of Jay-Z, Usher, they just kind of left it. They left it, let people talk for a little bit. And when they finish talking, when they tired talking, they just let it go. Swagger, he did his apology thing. Derek Jackson, he did his apology thing, but he kind of messed it up a little bit. But then this morning, I saw that Lizzo had slid in the DMs of one Chris Evans, right, Captain America, and I loved his response to it because I was really interested. I was really intrigued to see how he would have handled that situation as a white male in America dealing with a plus size black woman, right? So he said to him, "Shoot your shot." You know what I mean? And his response was essentially, "There's no shame in a drunk DM. I've done worse on this app." Right? I loved that response. There's no shame in a drunk DM. I've done worse myself on this app. And if you could kind of speak to that in terms of how he handled that situation, but not only that, she's kind of egging it along, pushing it along a little bit more. Because for me, that's a done deal after he sent that response. But I didn't get a chance to see her responses, but she's been kind of giving it a bit more life than I felt was necessary. I guess she has her own brand to deal with and kind of put momentum behind. But speak to that in terms of the response he gave and how that could have gone very left very quickly if he'd said something else as a man in his position.
So, couple of things, because I'm unfamiliar with this as well. But how did it get public if it was in his DMs? Did she release it?
She put it on.
Did.
Okay. All right. So, but again, right? So it goes back to the line of thinking of everything that I say and do can be used against me in the court of public opinion, right? I love what, based on what you guys have told me, because again, I'm unfamiliar with this story, so I don't really know what happened. But based on what you guys told me, I thought Chris handled that perfectly, right? He was lighthearted. You know, he showed empathy and saying, you know, I've done worse. You know, I understand. It's cool. You know, I think that was spot on. That was a great response. I don't know what she followed up with, but you know, after that first response, regardless of what she followed up with, I think it's okay if, you know, he could say, you know, he could not say anything.
Yeah.
And keep it pushing, or he could just close it off. You know, I appreciate. You know, I'm flattered by your comments. You know, thank you very much, and leave it at that. You know, and that's it. So I think he handled that spot on perfectly. And again, it goes back to everything doesn't have to be a back and forth, right? You say your piece, and if you know someone continues, especially in your DMs where they're the ones that's making it public, you say your one piece, and you leave it at that and keep it pushing.
Yeah, Kevin Durant and Michael Rappaport, they had an exchange too.
Yep.
Yeah, boy.
And that got out as well. I really am cautious when we start talking about Kevin Durant, Michael Rappaport as a black man, white man dynamic, sorry. And, that's not
Obviously.
Yeah. And then the Chris Evans is a white man talking to a black female. And I think that she's kind of a 3-for-1 almost in terms, because she's a black female, a black plus size.
Right.
And because there's so many things could have gone wrong there in terms we talk about fat shaming now. There's always a race card that you can play there. Yeah. And then there's also sexism coming into play there as well. So that's why I say Renee, yes, I did love his response. As Omar said, it was lighthearted. It kind of shot it down a little bit. Yeah, and he could have left it at that for me. But Neil kind of touched on it earlier. We talked about cancel culture and stuff like that. And I figure, do you figure that a statement like that would have been coming from a team of his people, where they were like, what is this? Would they have consulted with him to say, how do you want to respond to this? And then they craft a response?
I mean, that could be possible. Again, I don't know what the time, I mean, you could probably tell by the time, the space and time in between, you know, when she commented and when he responded, and that could give you a little bit more insight into if that is the case. It could have been, or it could have been him. I don't know. But regardless of who it was, I thought it was well done. You know, And look, a lot of celebrities are handling their own uh, social media channels. You know, Durant is on a lot of basketball players. They do it. You know,
Yeah.
Durant has his own social media and stuff like that.
About four.
Uh, hey, hey, I like Durant. I like
Yeah.
Durant.
Me too. As a player, as a
I like,
player.
yeah, yeah.
He bringing a chip to the net, so you know.
Uh,
Oh
But,
no,
but
no, no, Omar! Don't ruin the night. Don't spoil the night. Don't
yeah,
spoil
don't
the night.
spoil it. Don't spoil
Yeah, don't
it.
spoil it.
but regardless, um, I think if you, regardless of if it's you or if it's someone else, you really just want to be mindful of, if you learn anything else, if you learn nothing else tonight, just be mindful of what you put out there in public, because it can be used against you, and you just want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because that your what you say is a part of your brand.
Um, well said. Let me ask you another question, Omar, because coming out of that Lizzo thing and some things we've seen from other celebrities and back and forth on social media with screenshots and stuff like that. Let's talk about weaponizing social media to either elicit the outcome you want or demonizing someone. Is almost like you putting them on a litmus test, right? You either, Lizzo could have sent those DMs kind of showing, yeah, like she may be pushing that agenda, like, yeah, you either take and see if you can say the wrong thing and we cancel Chris Evans. Or let's go back to there's another example, like, the Michael Rappaport and Kevin Durant, right?
Mhm.
He leaked those, Michael Rappaport leaked those pictures, I guess, because he wanted to kind of show, I see, all right, he wanted to show, that Kevin Durant was saying these things, homophobic slurs and all this craziness, and
Mhm.
almost trying to elicit a response from Kevin Durant that is applicable or amicable for him. So
Mhm.
let's talk about the weaponization of social media and how celebrities or even people with a beginner following can weaponize their following to kind of go and cancel. I've seen it. I follow a lot of gaming channels online on YouTube, on Twitch and stuff like that. And it feels like every week,
Mhm.
like we saw, what's his name? Leonard, the Leonard guy, Miles Leonard
Yeah,
from
man.
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Heat,
man.
Yes, yes, yes. From
right?
the
Where he said something on stream
right.
and people weaponize it, people took it and they got the response. So talk about the weaponization of social media and the public relation game.
Yeah, I mean, again though, I just think that it really just comes down to uh, people can't use something against you if you don't put it out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's as simple as that, because you know what I say and what I do, uh, and I learned that obviously from my profession, um, that you really have to be cognizant of what you do and what you say on social media. And I mean, I learned that very quickly, and from there, sometimes there's stuff that I can done in terms of posting that I don't post because maybe somebody might misinterpret it.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and so I think it really comes down to having self control, because, to your point, people can weaponize it and can use it against you. Um, and, you can bounce back from that stuff. Uh, but why go through the trouble of having
Yeah.
to, when you could be mindful of what you post in the first place? Because it's going to be extremely difficult to walk it back. So just don't
Mm-hmm.
put it out in the first place. That would be my best advice. Now, if you don't care and you want to put that stuff out there, understand that whatever you put there, can be used you in the court of law, in the court of public opinion. Um, and then you want to make sure that you are going to have your strategies in place to deal with the issue when it does occur. Um,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be issuing an apology or talking about what you're going to do to improve and to better yourself, the steps that you're taking there. Um, and it's interesting because in the when you look at Mars Leonard, and I don't want to get into that, but he was just gaming,
Yeah.
right? He's just playing his game, and then he uses this. So I think that goes to show that we just really have to be cognizant of everything that we say and we do. That's bottom line.
No way around it. No way around it. Marsha is saying that Chris had his own mini social media issue last year with an accidentally leaked photo. So his comments definitely came across as good/fun banter. And Katie is the burner account boss. That is a fact. That is a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. We have 10 minutes left. I will say, because we can go, I figure we could go for another 10 minutes, right, Derek?
Yeah, man. I'm here. I'm good to go.
Right. So, Omar, let's talk about, obviously, you're a man, right? You're a young man. And we often, Derek, which is funny, you said it without prompting from Derek, where you said to be the best version of you. Can you speak? You're a black man, obviously, in America. You're obviously someone that has to be cognizant of the fast-paced life of New York City. Can you speak a bit about how the ways you cope with life in New York as a black man? As I don't know your situation with relationships or anything like that, but in terms of we've spent many times talking about requirements in relationships and things that men should use and to think about when choosing a mate to process and not to kind of fall for the okie doke of, yes, I just want sex or I just want companionship. Just speak a bit about how you go about, I mean, there's a bit personal, but, we just trying to get the perspective of various men out there about certain things. At least that's what I would figure any guest we bring on, we get the perspective from dating and from life in general. So just speak a bit about how you go about coping with life in general and how you see relationships, particularly in today's age with, all these distractions and social media and everything like that.
Yeah. So for me, in terms of relationship, I am engaged. My beautiful
Congrats.
fiance, Jaslyn, be watching, and she is the one who told me later. So.
Okay. So this blazer thing was not. Okay. Right. So it wasn't that you were trying to show us up or trying to look dapper or whatever. You just following instructions.
It was instructed.
Right.
Oh, sure, we could go with that. But I think with her, I mean, we've been together now for 4 years, and we're getting married later this year. For us, it was always about just being upfront with each other from the beginning. Building a trust, building a rapport, and like all of my women friends, she knew about, whether it be friends that I work with or just friends from college or whatever. There was that transparency and openness, and obviously setting boundaries with people. And so, again, trust is something that takes a lifetime to build and a second in which it could be destroyed. So you always want to be transparent and you always want to keep it real. So that's how we've, I guess, dealt with our relationship. And then obviously patience and stuff like that. I see her as a partner, even with the Bourne Connect and my podcast and all of my ventures outside of work. Like she supports me, encourages me, pushes me, and I do the same for her. And so I think, we've struck a really good partnership and a really good balance in life. And obviously, as with any relationship, you have your discussions and disagreements. But I think at the end of the day, it's about making sure that his best interests at hand and always wanting to see that person smile and make them happy. So you try to figure that out and just kind of move along as you progress. And then for me in living in New York City, my faith is a big part of who I am. And so I have friends, I have a good group of friends here in the city, but then also in just other parts of the country, and a couple of friends in Barbados as well, who, you know, we're all like-minded, and we just talk about different situations and we bounce ideas off of each other. But there's a support system at the end of the day, not just one person, fiance, mother, family members, brothers, you know, friends that, you know, you deal with and you talk about situations with. I mean, obviously, with everything that's been going on in society over the past year and a half, especially with George Floyd and other situations, you really want to have a support network where, you know, you can come home and you can be real with people, you know.
Yeah.
Yo, this is how I felt. You know what I mean? You talk to your boys, your fiance, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I felt. Just someone that can help you with that mental health component, because don't understand how important that is and how draining life can be in this constant hustle and bustle. And just, it seems like everything is, when one bad thing happens, another bad thing is right around the corner. And so you really want to make sure that you have a support network of friends and family and people that you trust, that you can share life with. And I've been blessed to have that.
Yeah, Neil will call that the emotional stability and the vulnerability. You know, that's Neil's that's Neil's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually find it funny because, you know, Derek, you are saying some things that Derek would tend to discourage you from.
I'll let him go. I'll give him a
right.
pass.
I believe you're engaged in everything that Derek may want to say, message you and tell you a couple of big brother advice.
I wouldn't do that to him. I wouldn't do that to him. You know, we'll speak on that other ways, right?
Right.
But he seems to have everything in order. Omar, what impact has your faith had on your relationship? First of all, which faith is this? We talking Christian?
Yeah, so I'm Seventh-day Adventist Christian, and my fiance, she's also the same.
Right.
I grew up pretty much Seventh-day Adventist my entire life. But obviously, you have to accept, you know, those teachings for yourself, right? And so went to Adventist college. A lot of my friends, I have friends who are Adventists. I have friends who are not Adventists. You know, a lot of people who I interact with, especially when I grew up, weren't Adventist Christian. So that has really played a significant impact in who I am, because I try to think about other people, and that is faith, but that's also upbringing. And I grew up, as you guys know, I grew up in Barbados, and I went to Alexandra. So shout out to all my Alexandra people. And, yeah. 96 to 01. Yeah, that's when I went to Alexandra. And so, growing for me, so I was like Derek in that, because Derek, you were born here in New York, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I was born here, and then I went to Barbados at a young age. Same with Derek. I just came back. He stayed.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I cannot say enough how much of an impact growing up in Barbados had on my life. Just a perspective out of this world. I mean,
Stick a pin, Omar. we definitely got to shout out Claire. She's shouting out Alexandra to the world. So, but she's before your time. So definitely shout out Claire for sure.
All right, Claire, I see that. I knew it. All those questions, I knew it had to be something. You know what I mean? That's right. So per ardua ad astra.
That's right. Yeah.
My brother too went to Alexandria as well. And funny enough, he's living in New York as well. Parallels are crazy.
The host. Jennifer is saying your fiance has a nice taste. The blazer is a nice touch.
Oh, thank you.
Shout out to wifey. And Steve is saying you can hear the media training in your responses.
Oh, yeah.
Well trained.
Very well trained.
This is live, so I gotta make sure I gotta think before I speak, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, just having that that training and that experience in Barbados, I think really equipped me for just who I am today. And I think it's unfortunate, and you guys I'm gonna go down a tangent here.
Go ahead.
I think it's unfortunate because I think we've gotten away from what I've seen from our core values as Bajans and the looking out for each other and raising people to not only think about themselves, but to think about other people. It seems as if we've gotten away from that. And so I would implore you guys in Barbados, and if you have kids especially, to try to instill those values in people. Don't try to move away from that, because that just equips you to be the best person that you can possibly be. Even the school system and having you work hard and knowing that you could achieve something once you put your best foot forward. Even when you move away, where systems are different, and where there may be more obstacles in your way, having that work ethic, my man, will catapult you to major heights. And so I think we have to get back to instilling that discipline in people, because I'm a living testimony of that.
Amen. Jennifer is saying amen. I think there's so many other things we would like to talk about, but we're at 2 hours now, and we definitely want to get you back on, because we kind of got you in your professional PR hat, but really want to dive into some of the topics we would have talked about in previous episodes with you as a young man. You're obviously about to take that leap and get married, much to Derek may have something different to say, but we don't get into that. So we will want you to come back at some point so we can talk about life in general, where we can talk about how you see particular. I didn't say salacious.
Something a little more salacious.
Well, my PR hat is gonna be on anyway. So.
Yeah. So basically, we can have you back, man, and we can talk about life. We can talk about relationships. We were going to talk about how you see things, where things are today versus things in the past when it comes to relationships and marriage. And, because one question I would want to ask you, I don't know, time, whatever, but I would want to ask you how you see roles in relationships. You said you made mention to your fiance having a partnership. Right. And that has been a kind of, people, some of our audience don't necessarily agree with when I say that there needs to be a leader within the relationship. And I don't mean a leader like you are the leader for the entire relationship, but like for the small subsections of the relationship. So, for example, you may lead in the domestic, taking care of the house. She may take care of grocery shopping. I just wanted to kind of ask you really quickly, how do you see roles in a relationship? Do you think that there should be a leader, or do you think that everything it should be right down the partnership 50-50?
So I think that I think there are going to be things that there are going to be roles that will have to be defined, because I think that people, there's going to be things that I'm better at or that I might enjoy doing more than the other person, right? And just within that, you have your quote unquote roles, right? I guess roles might have a negative connotation for some people, but that could be playing semantics. Um, for example, my fiance will tell you, yo, I could clean, I will wash every dish after every meal. We could cook a meal, yo, and she know that she don't even gotta wash dishes, because I am just that type of a person that I'm gonna wash dishes. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that gets me more excited than cooking a meal and then washing the dishes and seeing a clean kitchen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, that just makes me happy, right? And somebody might say, oh, well, the role of a woman is to cook. No, it's to clean, cook and clean. I would never say that. But I think that you have to each discuss what you are good at doing, what you enjoy doing, and then from there define roles. And I think that when you talk about making decisions, right, you both have to trust each other to the point where, like, if a decision needs to be made about it, and then if she says, all right, I trust you to make the final decision, boom, I make the final decision. There's going to be other issues, times when I might be like, all right, you know what, whatever you decide, babe, that's cool, and you keep it pushing. I think you have to be open-minded. You can't box people into quote unquote, you can't pigeonhole people into roles to the point where that person has to do this and that is it. Yeah, you don't want that professionally in your life, and you don't want it personally either. So I think you have to be open-minded. So yes, there are roles, but I think that's something that you have to talk to each other about in the relationship, and better at achieving and executing the roles.
Perfect. Well said. Anyhow, Derek, another good one. Another great show. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. We want to thank Omar so much for coming through.
Yeah, man.
Our very first guest. Yeah, man. The only thing about you, Omar, I don't know if you get this Nets bringing a chip to anywhere. I don't, I can't get done with that in terms of basketball, like,
Oh.
Yeah,
man. Honestly, I don't know that with all the injuries and stuff like that, it's going to be very difficult for them to do it this year, to be honest with you. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Knicks
So
for life.
again, oh dear, here we go. Let me wrap this up real quick. Omar, just again remind people where they can find you, your podcast, your socials, everything like that, so that they can check out your podcast. And if they need, any tips, advice, anything, they can reach out to you.
Yeah, you can I'm on Instagram at the Bourne, that's at TheBourne writer, WRITER. I am also on LinkedIn under Omar Bourne, OMAR Bourne, just in case you guys want to check out my credentials to make sure that I ain't out here. Yes. I know Derek, but people be like, oh, I don't know that guy. Let me see if he's telling the truth. So yeah. LinkedIn. And then the podcast is the Bourne Connect. It's on iTunes, Google Play, basically any podcast provider, you can find me there. It's audio as well. And I want to thank you guys for having me. This was fun. I watched you guys a couple of times, so I like the format. I like the discussion, and it was great to be your first guest. I feel honored by that, and this was a lot of fun. And
thanks for having you, man.
I gotta link you guys up the next time I come to Barbados, although I don't know when that's going to be. Everything.
Oh boy, yeah. The thing is, I was thinking about traveling, maybe coming to New York. So if I ever in New York, I will show you. As I said, I have family there. My brother's there, so definitely we want to link you, and then we can kind of, just talk about life, see how we can collaborate and stuff like that. So, so thank you very much again, Omar. Thanks everybody for their questions, their engagement, their comments. Greg is saying, great discussion, great points, respect. Chris is enjoying the conversation, clear as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks again to Omar, and close up with Derek. He was pretty much our mantra here on this show. So Derek, hit him with it.
Everybody, guys, be the best version of you for you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. All right, everybody, stay safe.
See the wifey putting in your credentials in the chat. So.
Look at wifey! Look at wifey! Look at wifey!
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care. So don't wind back for me. I wanna see if we got good chemistry. And don't wind up for me. Don't hold back, y'all.